Hello friends, welcome into another video. I'm Das Food, and today I'm playing the role of Perk Inspector. But what is a Perk Inspector, and why do we need one? A Perk Inspector is somebody who inspects perks, obviously, and judges whether or not you should consider bringing them into your next trial. Why do we need a Perk Inspector? I don't know, I guess I felt like it. And because this is the first installment in the Perk Inspector series, I thought we'd kick things off with a bang and look at one of my all-time favorite guilty pleasure perks, Autodidact. We're going to look at what the perk does, what's good, what's bad, and then we'll give it a final rating. Before going any further, let's take a 30,000 foot view at just what this perk is. Firstly, the history. Autodidact was added to Dead by Daylight in September of 2018 as part of the Shattered Bloodline DLC pack. It's one of Adam Francis's teachable perks alongside Deliverance and Pebble, which apparently some heathens call Diversion. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Wow, Food, you said Autodidact is one of your all-time favorite perks? I bet it was super popular when it first came out. And to that, I have two things to say. Firstly, there is no Das Food here. Not anymore, not today. As far as this video is concerned, my name is Dr. Peter Erkinspector, but you can just call me Dr. Peter Erkinspector. Secondly, no, it was not. Autodidact was not popular then, and it's not popular now. And why is that? Well, there are two reasons. Reason number one is pretty straightforward and simple. When it comes to healing, there are simply better perks out there. If your main goal is to win at all costs, you're definitely better off running Self-Care, Adrenaline, We're Gonna Live Forever, or everybody's favorite and most balanced perk, Circle of Healing. Autodidact is for those who want to have a great time, not those who want to make up for the fact that they couldn't make the varsity basketball team in 10th grade. Which, in my defense, I was there for 2 weeks of practice and I was this close. I almost made it! The second reason for Autodidact's lack of popularity may surprise you, but have you gamers heard of numbers? Because, oh boy, Autodidact comes with a lot of numbers. Just check out this description and see for yourself. You start the trial with a negative 25% progression penalty for skill checks to heal all survivors. For every successful skill check completed while healing a survivor, Autodidact gains 1 token, up to a maximum of 5 tokens. Each token grants plus 15 bonus progression for a successful skill check while healing survivors. Did you get all that? No? If not, I don't blame you. This perk's description is convoluted as all hell and probably scared off players that weren't expecting to take the ACT when they logged onto DBD that day. But don't worry, as an out and proud English major, there's nobody better than Dr. Peter Erkinspector to break down the math for you. Basically, think of Autodidact in terms not of its description, but just of its tokens. When you hit your first skill check, meaning when you have 0 tokens, the perk will deduct 25% of progress from your current heal, which is pretty steep. After that, things get a little complicated. You see, you would think you just keep adding 15% to each skill check until you hit the 5 token maximum, but there's debate about that. If you follow the math according to the perk's description, you end up with a 50% bonus to healing for every successful skill check, meaning that 2 skill checks will fully heal an injured survivor. Despite this, the Dead by Daylight wiki lists the 5th stack as giving a bonus of 62%, which is considerably better. Even more extreme, some people allege that fully stacked Autodidact provides healers with a whopping 75% boost to healing speed, though I'm not sure where they came up with this number, but hey, the forums do be crazy. So, which source did the math correctly? Well, technically, me. I did the math correctly, but I don't know if the wiki knows something I don't know, so hell if I know. But it's not really all that important. What's important is the basic concept that your first 2 skill checks will cost you progress. Your third will essentially break even, and the next 2, as well as all from that point, will offer large boosts. Simple enough when you put it that way, right? Now, let's talk pros and cons. What do we like and what do we dislike? As already stated, one of Autodidact's cons is that it's far from the best healing perk in the game. To state it simply, you're never going to see this perk run in competitive DBD in its current state. Some comp teams don't even bother with healing at all, and those that do aren't going to waste time on a perk that costs efficiency with no guaranteed return on investment. But what about casual players? Well, there's some issues there too. You see, while Autodidact is definitely a healing perk, it doesn't really play well with others, and strongly discourages the use of other healing perks. This is because Autodidact is based on the concept of getting skill checks. If you're not getting skill checks, you're not earning tokens. If you're not earning tokens, you're not getting value out of this perk. The issue then with using other healing perks is that they make you heal faster and therefore decrease your chances of earning stacks by varying amounts. Empathic Connection increases your healing speed by 10%, which is nice, until you realize that this means you're decreasing the time you have to get a skill check by 10%. Same goes for Botany Knowledge with its 33%, and so on and so forth. If you're bringing Autodidact, don't bother bringing another healing perk. There's also the issue of medkits, which don't trigger Autodidact skill checks at all. This is notable because, unlike most perks, Autodidact has its own unique skill check, which lack the Great Zone and are exclusively good. In essence, Autodidact skill checks are pass-fail instead of letter-graded. If you use a medkit, you're going to get basic skill checks and have likely wasted a perk slot. That said, medkits aren't completely out, seeing as though you can still heal yourself with them, seeing as though Autodidact doesn't apply to self-heals anyway. Another con, and yes, there's another one, is that Autodidact can greatly screw you over if you ever need to go for heals on a down teammate. Sure, it's great when you've got 3 to 5 tokens, but if you try to pick them up while holding 0 tokens and end up decreasing their healing time by 25%, let's just say your team isn't likely to see the haha funny value in your choice of perks. As far as they're likely to be concerned, you may as well have run self-care with no mither. Another downside is that Plague will nearly completely wipe out this perk's usefulness. To be fair though, she does this to every healing perk, so that's not really unique to Autodidact. You also have a 1 in 28 chance of running into the Plague, at least on paper, so she's not really worth planning around. That said, if you do encounter a Plague, and you will, just know that she's going to invalidate any healing build you might have cooked up. Lastly, for cons, it's worth noting that sometimes you heal a teammate and simply don't get a single skill check. Sure, it's rare, but it definitely happens, and when it does, you just healed a teammate without getting any buffs, and your time was essentially wasted. That's a tough break. Phew, that's a lot of cons. But I'm on record as having said I love this perk, so the pros must be pretty crazy, right? Well, yes and no. No. Autodidact is not nearly as powerful as Dead Hard, Decisive Strike, or Unbreakable. But yes, there's still a lot to like about this perk. Perhaps my favorite aspect of Autodidact is that it gives me a secondary objective as a survivor. Most every survivor has complained at some point or another that the majority of the survivor experience is sitting on a generator and holding M1. If you're not doing that, you're sitting on a chest and holding M1, or sitting on bones and holding M1, or standing at the exit gate and holding M1. And while it's true that healing other players is still an exercise in holding M1, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't fun trying to hunt down other players and earn my 5 tokens before the game was over.
That's quite big. Impressive.
Even if I get them while standing at the exit gate with the game basically over, I still feel a sense of joy and accomplishment that I got my Autodidact value. In a game where the main loop can get a little stale sometimes, Autodidact offers something of a nice side mission to spice things up a little. But I'm a weird guy, and maybe my personal minigames don't appeal to you. Is there legitimate value to be found in Autodidact beyond its ability to break the monotony of the survivor experience? I think so, yes. You see, for all the noise I made about the journey required to get all 5 tokens, it's not actually that hard. All you really have to do is run one of Claudette's teachable perks, Empathy, and you'll be able to see injured survivors from across the map. When you find a convenient moment, just go to your injured teammate and offer them a quick back rub. Just like that, you're pretty likely to have 2 to 3 tokens, and now you're in a position to actually get value out of this perk. And when I say there's potential value in Autodidact, I mean there is real and extremely serious potential to be found in this perk. Whether it's 50, 62, or the mythical 75%, the buff to healing given by having 5 tokens is extremely nice, and you can come through in tough situations. If you're dealing with a slug-happy killer or, you know, an Oni, this perk becomes worth its weight in gold. And that's before you factor in the greatest perk combo that I literally never see run, Autodidact paired with Jane Romero's Solidarity, which allows a player to heal their teammate in record time while also healing themselves halfway. If you want to go full meme with your build, you can throw in Jill Valentine's Resurgence and actually heal both you and your teammate all the way at the same time. Another benefit of Autodidact is that it counters two rather popular killer perks, those being Sloppy Butcher and Thanatophobia. Slowing the survivors down is the name of the game for killers, but these slowdown perks actually backfire when confronted with Autodidact. The longer it takes to complete a regular heal, the more likely the Autodidact user is to get multiple tokens off of a singular heal. In fact, when facing Sloppy, I'd say it's reasonable to expect a minimum of 3 tokens from your first heal. You'll get 5 tokens in no time, and after that, you are well positioned to be the team medic. This is also a perk that does well against a large majority of the game's roster of killers. We've already mentioned that Plague counters Autodidact hard, and I'd also add that it's not the best thing to run against insta-down killers like Billy or Bubba. But other than that, you're in the clear. I'd say its best uses come against Freddy, Oni, and any killer that's likely to juggle survivors like Wraith or Sadako. If you're curious as to why I singled out Freddy, it's because his players tend to bring add-ons that slow down healing in the dream world, which actually ends up benefiting Autodidact much in the same way that Sloppy Butcher does. Also, as odd as it may seem to say, Autodidact makes healing against Legion a more viable prospect. I still don't know that I'd recommend it, but at least this way you get your stacks almost immediately, and you're able to mitigate Feral Frenzy's effectiveness fairly well. Am I telling you to run a full healing build against Legion? No, absolutely not. But if you're going to run one anyway, Autodidact can actually make a Legion's life harder. But that's about it for the pros and cons. As you can see, Autodidact is a perk with extreme peaks and extreme valleys. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. You have to be a little crazy to run Autodidact, but in my humble opinion, that's just the kind of crazy we need to make Dead by Daylight fun again. And let's say you decide to run this perk. What build should you equip? Well, you have 4 perk slots, and one of them is obviously going to be taken up by Autodidact. Another should definitely be used for Empathy, unless you're in a full Swift and trust that your team's comms are good enough to find each other quickly. As a quick aside, Autodidact goes hard in Swift groups. From here, you have a few options. If you're not an absolute looping god, I always recommend bringing an exhaustion perk. I'd say Overcomer Life, but if you want to be a little weenie and bring Dead Hard, then that's fine too, I guess. After that, you have to decide how much you want to commit to Autodidact. Do you bring Solidarity and Resurgence as 2 of your 4 perks? And if you have to choose just one, which do you choose? I mean, Solidarity, obviously. Choose Solidarity if you're only going to pick one. A good build for solo queuing with Autodidact, in my opinion, would be Autodidact, Empathy, Kindred, and Overcome. If you're in a Swift, you can drop Empathy and Kindred and replace them with stronger perks, like Prove Thyself and Spine Chill. And yes, I know Spine Chill can technically boost your healing speed, and I said to avoid perks that do that, but Spine Chill only activates when a killer is looking in your direction, and that's hardly the time to eat a negative 25% healing speed penalty anyway. And that'll just about do it for builds. With all that's been said and done, it's time to give Autodidact a grade. Autodidact is a complex perk with many highs and many lows. It counters several killers rather decently, and can use some solid killer perks back against them. It adds a layer of fun to the game that I personally find lacking sometimes, and offers a neat little side quest. That said, it's weak against insta-down killers and downright terrible against the Plague. Also, if you want to play as competitively as possible, there are better perks to bring. Overall, I like Autodidact, but I understand it's not for everyone. That said, if you do have a huge PP, this perk is definitely for you. I give Autodidact an 11 out of 10 and highly recommend you use it. Warning though, side effects may include making more friends and being a generally cooler person. But that's gonna do it for me. If you liked the video, like the video. If you haven't subscribed, hop on. We're on the road to 10K and I can't wait to get there. I do want to remind you, like I always like to, that I do have a Twitch, das_food. Go on over, follow it. We have a good time. We do Monday, Wednesday, Friday streams. It's just a jolly good time. Other than that, that's gonna do it for me. This has been my review of Autodidact. We'll be back on Friday with another video. I hope you're having a lovely day. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, I've been Das Food. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't